No.
Now you already know that's not a legitimate Article 3 court. Would you start saying, I'll go to court tomorrow and stuff?
No.
Now that you know that they've hypothecated your estate and made bank bonds, you'd ask them to produce the bond that's attached to the case, because it's part of the evidence. And y'all ain't discussed the bond, Deborah. And the finance that they're asking you for, they keep talking money, and that's private commercial paper that's taxable that belongs to the temple realm. It don't even belong to you. And they're having a money discussion. Do you go along with that? Or do you say, real world? Let me straighten you out, Fred. Is that complex?
No.
Well, see, the government says you need a license. You're not government. That's for starters. It's called Clearfield Doctrine. See how this stuff all falls in place, you understand?
Islam.
They're making demands of you, and they're not government. And you keep forgetting they're not government. They're members of the temple round, the round church, the crown temple, Inquisition operations, Westminster, London, occupying North America. And you know what? We were talking to some people this morning, and one of the brothers saying, look what America did to the black man. I said, bad statement. America's our land. America is not the United States Corporation Company occupying and their operators. And the daggone sure the Europeans that you're talking about. Get it straight. Because as soon as you do that, you've just killed your own argument. If I'm defending against someone like that, those semantic misunderstandings and miscalculations can be used pro or con at option. So if some person sitting around coming in some courtroom talking about rights, well, we people of color marched upon the court to make complaint about our rights and the racism that's perpetrated against the black man by America. That whole statement is so extremely incompetent, and yet statements like that are made every day, and they promote them and allow them. Why? Because that person is like a big circular taffy running down the street unwrapped, talking about they're going to make it to the next corner. Most likely, Jenny Craig is standing in each doorway, and they're going to get licked. By the time they get to the corner, they lean. you know, like when you go to get them taffies and they get to that last part, even though taffy's hard, and then it gets soft and it swirls up a little bit. Then they try to work on the stick because the flavor's leaving.
That's all that's running is the stick.
And we don't get it. And then we start calling it racism. Race is the human species. The human species is known by nations. The laws that govern nations is called international law and constitutions and treaties. And those without a nationality do not come under national law protections.
That's right.
And thus, in law, can't use the common law as a defense. So many of these magistrates have told many of these people who claim to be black, and even the ones who claim to be whites, when they perfected these processes, say, you can't use that Constitution as a defense because you're not a party to it. And you need to know why you've heard that here and there. Now, back to the question. And I trust that people can look at the different facets of the jewel and see with multiple eyes, because when you're dealing with the dark priesthood, you cannot view them with one focus, one eye, because they operate from multiple angles at one time. You're here at the House of Reawakening Mind to be reminded of that fact. Don't be uncomfortable, because we've only been using about 10% of our brain anyway. So get real, y'all. Wake up. Be reborn with a new mind. Did I cover the question?
Yeah.
So this is what would happen.
Theoretically, you did.
So this is what would happen. After coming to a venue like this and learning fundamentals of affidavits.
Which we will be having some classes specific.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, this sister's all that and bag of chips. But we ain't got chips, but we do have abundance over there.
There you go.
I think that's better than chips. But I think y'all agree because I've seen a lot of plates lying around. I'm trying to concentrate on this thing. Anyway, this is the deal. When you communicate with persons that are making a claim against your estate, in constitutional law and what is known as due process, you bear the right, the self-obligation, and possess it, not given, but existing with you, to question your accuser. Persons who claim to be judges and magistrates are referees. So when they start talking trash to you, you say, well, hey Fred, hold on. You're practicing law from the bench. You know you shouldn't do that, should you? I think you should recuse yourself, shouldn't you? Well, you know, this Fred did this and you did that and your sneaks are tied together. Oh, you accusing me? I think you better come down off the bench and swear in, because I'm getting ready to question you. Now, that's how you use this knowledge. Then the person who accused you, the Bar Association or something, and the state of New Jersey said that your sandwiches really don't smell good. Well, the state of New Jersey is a private corporation written on paper. It can't talk, it can't think, it can't act, it can't breathe. It does not exist, and I can't question it. Who's the man or woman in this room that has a claim? Well, they sent the papers in and the lawyers over here represent, that's third party. They're not first party witnesses. Strike all that testimony. And time is flying because I should have been in the movie to see Batman. Ooh. That's what that knowledge does. See, you don't get into subject matter when subject matter is not founded.
Islam.
Because you start thinking on your feet, unless you're afraid to stand for that which is right. And submit or waive. Well, go into the waiver room. Yeah, that's what the waiver room buys. You don't waive your rights with them because they ain't right from the door. They're de facto. They have no rights to give. Therefore, don't take no offers. Don't go to bed with them. Did I cover most bases? I'm trying to. Go ahead.
Microphone.
Yeah, what I was going to say, Grace, what you had just covered is what us Moors used to hear the elders would make some of the magistrates just roll. With your example,
Well, yeah.
everyone followed it.
Yeah.
And, with that example.
Yeah,
and
that's how you
a lot
just
of
rule.
elders were going to the grave with this knowledge. And we had to do a lot of sacrifice to get this out. But you made it plain and simple. I only just want to say that so people can actually value the template that you just gave. So that's
They're asking that you speak.
speak up now. I apologize. Just sit back here and not want to function on more. What I had said was the template, the example His Grace gave you all is what we used to hear well over 25 years ago in the early 90s, way back in the 80s, that there were elders that knew that formula, and he just broke it down to you. So I'm saying to you all, take that gem he gave you because it's very important. And this is what makes His Grace so valuable and so lovable. He makes it very simple to you. And I just want to say I appreciate that part for that. And thank you so much.
And for those of you who do not know who this brother is, this is Brother Hannibal D. Bey. This is Grand Sheik's
father. Is actually patient.
father. Hannibal, this is his father.
Yeah.
And he is Grand Sheik's son, eldest son.
And my father in another.
And his father from another incarnation.
Now, the deal of it is, is to learn the truth about nationality and about birthrights so you can discern this information and exercise it. It is not just a statement set by Noble Drawley. For what we discussed are national principles, enforcement, mental principles exercised. We only talked about an aspect of it.
Yeah.
Are we clear?
Some.
But one of the major things that we must all remember is that it doesn't arrive with you with government. It is because of its existence in divine law and nature that we assemble governments to secure and protect those rights, which are called birthrights, unalienable rights, not transferable or sold or sellable by government. The U.S. democracy platform, which was set up in 1861, where they set up for themselves a kingship oligarchy, was put in place to abridge exactly what I just told you. Therefore, you must be conscious that the Crown Temple Church is in place to undermine the Republic and thus your birthrights. Their existence is for that purpose. It's not a circumstance of their activities. They were established to do that. Just like a car was designed to go forward and backwards, not oh dang, this car goes backwards. It was designed to go backwards. Really? Uh-huh. Dang, this water wets me up. Well, that's what water does. As well as quench thirst and do quite a few other things. Really? Like, yes. Boy, this air breathable. For that too. We need to get over ourselves and start understanding and comprehending in society things which are constructed in organized society have purpose and function. Are we clear?
Yeah.
The U.S. democracy platform was set up for the oligarchs and the monarchies of England to enforce the Unum Sanctum Church Bulla under the disguise of government so that the people wouldn't suspect that the Spanish Inquisition never ended.
Right.
Are we clear? If you can remind yourself not to be fooled by phrases and statements and titles, your eyes will be clear. When you forget, you become food. It's not racism, it's Inquisition operations. Its first-line soldiers that meet you every day are gangs of New York members have disguised themselves as policemen. They are Roman soldiers. Its behind-the-scene enforcement members are the bankers and the lawyers, esquires, who are really attorneys, members of the Temple Round Church of England, who own, with the popes of Rome, the United States Service Corporation company that's been occupying North America and has been fronted to people who don't know politics or civilization, been fronted as a country. And they have succeeded in dumbing the people down to the degree that the average person, with all their intelligence and so-called spirituality, can't even see it. They have eyes and cannot see. They have ears and cannot hear. And a rescuer came for them some time ago. His name was Yahushua. He came amongst his own, and they received him not. Matter of fact, they won't even call him by his name. That's how much they don't love him. But they always run around talking about Jesusness. Ain't got a sandwich yet, though. Reverend Jones got a $3,000 suit, though. Oh, I just talked to him. He was with Bertha. She's singing with the choir. Bertha Butts. She's one of the Butts sisters. Spending Jesus at Macy's. Go ahead. Oh, I saw a dollar store, too.
That's where
My
we hang
favorite
out.
shopping
That's
place.
where we hang out.
Go ahead.
But people, the reason why I guess I pose it to you is because so many, after listening sometimes hours and hours and hours
Yeah.
of your teaching, and you know, you and I talk, and you tell us about redundancy, because being redundant, eventually, it took me like 5 years to get some things. But I still get questions, and people
Yes.
are saying, well, I tried this. I mean, I heard someone wrote me today and said,
Unless they can demonstrate what that try is,
But
the
they
question is still plausible.
for instance, a person said that they had their property in trust. They didn't say when or how they put it in trust, but despite it being
the first
in trust,
thing you say,
they took the property.
this is for everyone. The first thing people say when their property is in trust is not the property. The first thing in law is their status. What's their status? But see, this is back to why there's an assumption that people make. You know what? I got in the race, you understand, because, and then I was really pedaling really fast. But the cars kept passing me, and everybody kept passing me. What was you riding? I was riding the wheels. What was your wheels? Tricycle. Belonged to my niece. It had training wheels on it. Well, where was you at? On I-95. Did you expect to win? What do we tell people when we begin to give them this information? In law, the first thing in law is status and estate. Status and estate in law are equals. So when people start making statements like that, with all due respect, you don't get caught in the emotions or let them put a guilt trip on you. What was their legal status? And were they holder in due course of the instruments related to the estate that they're alleging to have in their trust? What was the name on any paperwork that they presented? And did they show you that paper and the trust? And their status at the time that they made the claim.
So someone is saying, so if I am naturalized, they can take my home?
Naturalized is not part of the human family. That's property.
I know they said naturalized, not
Naturalized
naturalized.
is
They said natural.
14th Amendment.
Maybe they made a mistake when they said that.
No, they're corpse. They naturalized as a corpse. Didn't we go to the charge the affairs and show the people in U.S. corporation, United States expatriation and citizenship?
That's right.
And it said directly. It didn't say indirectly. It said directly. Now, so there's no dispute. Let's bring this up. Hold on. That's what I like, House of Awakening Mind. Now let's look at this. And keep this in mind, you all. And this also shows you the necessity of redundancy. The other deal of it is witnesses to ourselves. As an example, when we open these sessions, very often we will ask primal questions when we open up. You may have 60 people, 30 people, 40 people in the room, and you ask them basic questions that we've been talking about for years. And you'll see 3 hands go up. Does that tell you that the people comprehend this information?
Well, they clarified. They said, yes, naturalized, meaning came from Haiti.
All right, let's talk. They are, yes, but at the same time, isn't it truth that we present to them? Circle 7 Quran from our illustrious prophet Noble Drali, who's the prophet for humanity, and he gives you the aggregate outline of the Moroccan Empire,
Yes.
chapter 47. And if your right is not claimed, they consider it waived. Hold on.
And while you're on that, someone is saying, so if I am a proclaimed, I can use an adverse claim for a co-op?
You can always, isn't it logical that understanding how estates and real estate operate in a co-op, that means you have part interest, you have not sole claim.
Right.
Use intelligence
So that
and
would be a no.
be logical. But that's not a rejection, but we need to think. And let's be intelligent. Start fights that you have a chance to win. So that we can start clearing up the platform for the next generation to be easier. When I get in the ring with Mike Tyson, if I've been jabbing 5 weeks, do you think I'll win?
I don't think so.
Oh, possibility not. Duh. I respect all questions, but we really gotta start getting reasonable. And I don't think that's being unfair.
Nope.
Now, and this is also with certain persons who've been selling people naturalization. Noah Drawley came and told us the truth about our nationality and birthright. And he told the Moors, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality. Is that not true?
That's true.
And he also said, help me in my great missionary work. So he's telling you what the missionary work is. He said, bringing my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States of America. Is that unfamiliar to any of you?
No.
Therefore, when people even act like they don't know what the Moorish movement is about, does that say it's about worship or is it talking about an estate and people's rights and liberties?
People's rights and liberties.
That's at the core of the movement. And anyone who denies that or tries to say it's something else is lying their keys doors off. So let's go. Let me bring this up so that it can be seen by all. So I don't want to just talk trash. I'm going to show you. And I'm going to increase this. And understand when I did the booklet, I did this just as the type. This is a picture type as opposed to me typing it over because we have trolls that keep on trying to tell people that this stuff don't apply to you. Citizenship. I want y'all to read this with me because I know that y'all may not be able to see this on the camera. But for you all in the room, let's read this bottom part of this page. And this is 115 of the Constitution and Treaty Book, which I prepared for Moorish, so that their concepts of understanding and comprehending that treaty law is constitutional law. Are we clear?
Clear.
Because you have a lot of trolls telling the people that they're not. Now, this is citizenship of the United States, expatriation, etc., page 459. Now, let me make this a little bigger, because even though I got spectacles on, I know even people with spectacles sometimes can't speculate what they're expecting to say.
Yes, sir.
So, and for those of you who have it at your convenience, you go ahead and use magnifying glasses too. Citizenship of the United States, expatriation, 459, that's the page, chapter 5, temporary provisions. Now, what's the country y'all see right there?
Wow.
Now, what do you see at the title? Citizenship of the United States. So is that a separate jurisdiction?
No. No.
So this is a subtitle of law operations of the United States, isn't it?
Yes.
Right.
Is that hidden?
No.
Does MOROCCO spell Mars?
No.
Does it spell whether you believe something or not?
No.
Does it spell what your beliefs are? Whether Christian, Muslim, Jew, whatever. Is that clearly a political jurisdiction?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it clear that these things have not been taught to people in general?
Yes.
But this is evidence, isn't it?
Yes.
Isn't it known that people among us have been selling naturalization to our people?
Yes.
Well, let's see what the law says about that. Mr. Phillip charged the affairs to Mr. Root, Secretary of State, August the 3rd, 1906. When did Prophet Noble Ali set up the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, the old Canaanite temple at North America?
1913 AD.
So how many years is it after this?
7.
7 years.
7. 7 years. So we went through a cycle of 7, and Drew Ali set up the old Canaanite temple. What is at the heart of that movement? To the restoration of the nationality and birthright of these people who have been misrepresented. So let's read what the United States law on citizenship and expatriation has to say. Sir, there are strictly speaking no Moroccan laws, and so he would say no Moroccan, no American laws relating to citizenship of Moorish subjects in Morocco. So they don't know these people are Moorish in the United States?
They know. They know.
And this is United States law on citizenship and expatriation. This covers the whole gamut, doesn't it?
Yes.
So the fundamental laws of this non-Christian country, you see what Obama was talking about when he went to Egypt, and he talked about the Treaty of Tripoli? And they've been lying to these people, telling them that the United States is a Christian, Judeo-Christian country. They lying their keisters off. Are based entirely upon the Islamic code. You see what Obama was saying? He went to Egypt, he said the United States Constitution comes from Muslim law. Now you see what he's talking about. Was he out to lunch, or was he informing people who are being miseducated?
He's informing people.
You can understand why some people don't like Obama. Because he wasn't following the script. So, the fundamental laws of this non-Christian country are based entirely upon the Islamic code, no part of which treats of citizenship. So let's turn the page. And pay attention to this, you all, because this is concepts, and this is back to understanding the Buck Act, things that are done, and what do you do with this information when you have this knowledge? You speak different. Therefore, you create what? A different jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So, page 460, citizenship of the United States expatriation. There are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries. Is that talking religion, or is it talking politics?
Politics.
Repeat, is that talking religion, or is it talking politics?
Politics.
So what has been problematic with our people? They didn't know to make the distinction, did they?
Well,
And got caught up in false matrix, thinking that they worshiping Jesus and were in servitude voluntarily.
That's right.
There are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries and the Moorish Empire, by means of which citizenship in this country is defined. So if you're a citizen of anything, aren't you responsible to know this knowledge?
yes.
If somebody is telling you that you're a citizen of this, that, or the other, isn't it specific?
Yes.
Yes.
And are you valid not knowing the rules that are herein stated?
Nope.
All right. So there are, however, numerous treaties and conventions, all of which you're supposed to be aware of, between the various Christian countries and the Moorish Empire, by means of which citizenship in this country is defined. But as I understand from the above acknowledged instructions, that it is not the desire of the department to call for a report upon such lines. Why? It's sensitive information that these people speak. I ain't gonna go too deep into this now. I don't want to wake them up because of the Buck Act. You see? That is not desire of the department to call for a report upon such lines. I will therefore confine these remarks to general conditions existing. Meaning you're going to get to the point and not going too much further. Which may possibly be of some use in connection with the information desired. Now, y'all read this with me, and this is for the people listening to also hear. All right, so that you can clear up concepts and misconceptions that you may have had entertained in the past. clean up your mind.
Yes. Purge.
1, read it, y'all. Citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso jure as Moorish subjects. That means they got to prove they ain't Moors. So do you need a nationality card to prove that you're Moor or you ain't Moorish American?
No.
You got to prove that you ain't.
That's right.
How come no one brings this up?
Ipso jure.
Real history and law is uncomfortable, isn't it?
That's right.
It's also revealing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It also shows you that a lot of people that have been playing with you in leadership type games have been playing with you knowingly to your injury.
Yes.
Let's read number 2 and 3, y'all. Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized in or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. Do we need to go any further?
No.
Does that answer a lot of questions, even some questions that weren't even asked? So if you understand the status of these people who don't know they're Moors, and they're running around claiming to be black and wonder why they ain't got no rights,
Come
and
on.
nobody's teaching them,
Come on.
and a lot of people are sucking on them
Woo.
and taking advantage of them
Islam.
and marching them all around the place talking about keep hope alive while
Mama.
their asses is being kicked. No, let's be real, y'all.
Yeah.
Do you really love your babies? Do you really love yourself?
Yeah.
Do you really have respect for those who have gone before you and sacrificed,
Yes.
who weren't educated, that didn't know these things? Well, you can read, y'all. What does that have to do with your beliefs?
Nothing.
That's your pedigree. That's your bloodline.
That's your lineage.
Failure to claim it is
Yeah.
failure to claim your inheritance.
That's right.
Now you understand why Drew always said if you don't do anything else to declare your nationality? Because without that you have no claim. Is that not logical? Because the treaty is between what? The United States, which is a subdivision of England, and the Moroccan Empire,
Yeah.
which is under occupation. Now you see why he didn't want to make an extensive report on those lines from the department? Because they'd have to do what they do at the House of Reawakening Minds and explain it to you.
That's right.
So when you get certain amount of information, certain things become what is called self-evident. They can't be taught, they must be realized. Rights can't be given, they must be claimed. Because no one has them to give.
That's right.
You have them to acknowledge. Failure to do so is called abandonment. Now do you see why foreclosures are called abandonments? It's an estate. And they're discussing money with private commercial paper. You see what the problem is? You got to clear these things up with people. And if we don't fix that, the rest of the conversation is dead. Now, whereas we might accept it with each other because we know where we're trying to go. We know that we're trying to fix this. But someone who's taking advantage of you is not going to explain this to you. They're just going to take advantage of you. If you get into the ring taking selfies, do it all the way around with every round. But when the fight's over, don't take no more selfies because you're going to have 2 black eyes, 3 teeth missing, swollen jaw, and limping to the corner talking about the ref jumped you. Lying. And this is pretty much what we do in society as a people. We artfully complain how they mistreated us. We artfully complain how our rights have been abridged. But if questioned what those rights are, we start making stuff up. If addressing the things where the problem is like this, they talk about, oh, that's that Moorish stuff, ain't got nothing to do with me. You think the world feels sorry for these people who always talk about Jesus, God, Allah, Moses, Muhammad, and they know the Bible, the Quran, the Gospel, the Vedas, Pentateuch, Hexateuch, and they know all this stuff, and they're really spiritual, and they're just taking a breathe by the pyramids in Egypt because they made 2 trips, and they don't even know their bloodline? Go ahead, Dr. Nadia.
Bloodline
Go ahead.
comes to mind. I don't know if you and I had this discussion,
Yeah, correct.
but can you discuss the fact of the conspiracy that's going on with the DNA testing that is giving people all of these, your part this, part that, everything, but
Scan
it goes.
It's always to disconnect them from the land.
everything.
And then what
Because
do you see
everybody's
Europeans-
right now getting
Yeah, and
this.
then what do you see what Europeans keep doing? You see Europeans saying, you know, particularly when the middle class is being thrown on the bus now,
I'm Native American.
you know, and they'll make ponytails and stuff, start wearing beads and stuff.
I'm
Yeah,
Native
my great aunt was Native American, so I claimed her out.
Did you do that with the DNA test?
Yeah, I know, because my father was French, but really he was from Louisiana Territory. And his grandfather was Cherokee and shit.
And they claiming your stuff. Yeah, our people is out to daggone lunch. Look at this. Is it not true that anthropologists around the world are known to say, and genealogists, cut and dry and not disputed, that the entire human family can be traced back to the African woman?
Yes.
So how the hell that you allow any foreign Europeans occupying your land tell you came from someplace else when we were on the planet?
First.
If you go to the center of civilization in central old Africa, which they call old Amexem, they say Olmec,
That's right.
you'll find heads that look like Fred down the street that are beyond thousands of years old.
That's right.
And beyond those thousands of years old, that are older than any finds on the other side of the water in Egypt,
Thank you.
Nubia,
There you go.
Sumeria,
That's right.
and everywhere else.
Right here.
At the north, at the central, and at the south. Go ahead, Hannibal.
Stand up.
It's bigger.
I wanted to add on to
First you do the
His
moonwalk. Okay.
I wanted to add on what His Grace was saying. And I keep repeating it. We must understand when we first touched down on this planet as a refuge, it was on this landmass. This landmass, the technology of the pyramids, that was actually used to power our ancestors, our forefathers' ships. That's why this was the continent, it was the first continent that had the oldest pyramid on the planet. And here's another little tidbit. Our ancestors sat on it for eons before they started using it. All right, His Grace is going to help me formulate some of my classes that we used to do back in the day, bring it up to speed to this so I can present it to you and just give you a little bit more of the history. But I just wanted to highlight what he is saying. You must understand, we got to stop giving the Europeans too much credit. I keep telling the individuals, and Father is actually going into it right now, telling you about the DNA thing. It's like, for one, they locked up that whole field so they can give the interpretation. No different than what they did with archaeology. And they so quick to call you Negro, what have you. You'll notice they will not let any Asiatics get into that field. Here is a story my ex-fiance said, and I actually met her through Roundtable. We used to have it in Camden, New Jersey. She was a Panamanian background, and she recognizes being Moorish. God rest her soul. She was in college at the time, so this is their mid-90s. And one of her friends was studying the so-called Egyptology. So I want to make sure I tell you this story to condense it, and then you tell others. Make sure you remember this. So she had a friend that went over to Egypt to go on a find with this professor that was actually digging up your stuff over there in Kemet. And what they do is they have the students as the interns. They'll be at a certain area digging things off, using the brushes, making sure they delicately take them and pack them here and there, whatever. The professor, who is the archaeologist, he sat there and roped off an area. So he's by himself. And he'll deal with that area, doing whatever he's doing, and then once he's done, he'll unrope it and say, now everybody go here. All right, so Gabriella's friend actually didn't follow the rules. She went past the rope. Walked up on the professor. You know what he was doing? He was whitening up the damn artifact. And she said, what the hell are you doing? You can't do that. Oh, you can't. Put her unconscious Asiatic behind back when a fight plane came right back here real quick.
And that's what they always do.
See what I'm saying? And when she told us that, we was like, wow, now that may have been recorded because we used to have people come and see us and do our lectures, so I don't know. I don't know if anybody bumped that up. But I want you to know that. That was told to us in the 90s, and that happened in the 90s. All right? But always know that they're locking up the archaeology, like he's saying, the Olmecs. They were your Lemurian ancestors. You're Moors because of your ancestry of Lemurians. Everybody else in the metaphysical circles, those Europeans, call themselves Druids, but that's you, because you went over there and taught them. They called the Lemurian race the God race.
That's right.
All right?
That's right.
Your different civilizations of Atlantis, Pan, that's under the Arctic. Because the what's the name shift? The Earth shifted. Okay. So anyway, I keep reminding the people. Yakub Kokashis Kushitis was a Lemurian. All right?
He had a scientist.
Right. He had 12 Lemurian women scientists that helped him with that experiment.
Yes.
So when you hear Moors say, oh, that they're Moabite, no, they weren't Moabite. Moabite, Moor came after the experiment. Because remember, once he perfected it, he started here in this landmass, Kentucky area. And the Lemurian government was concerned, like, all right, we're going to make this new creation. His purpose was this. We were in a photon belt back then. That was a good 10,000 years ago. We came out of it. Now we just started going back into it. His premise was he wanted to have our ancestors to survive and to be able to partake of the energy, the cosmic energy that was going to affect us planetary-wise, because you weren't going to be in the photon belt energy. Now you just got back into it, all right? So what he did, and you got the clocks of destiny, I'm just going to condense it real quick. He finally found being close to your divine ancestors, which was the Negro Javero Rabo, that was the chimpanzee. That's where you get Nick from. So 40 years to complete it. We go back to the Lemurian government. They actually say, yo, this sounds all right, but you might create a new damn disease and wipe us all off the face of the earth. So then out of the Kentucky area, he took it down into the Mexico area.
Which is Lower Egypt.
See what I'm saying? So there's a reason why it's called Mexico is because mixed Moors.
Mixing.
Then he continued to take it past the equator. All right, you know, you got the Tropic of Cancer, equator, Tropic of Capricorn. He took it past that, took it down to South America to finish up the experiment.
Patagonia.
So now, once he done that, took him 40 years, he created the new being. This is why you don't call your little ones kids.
These animals.
It's nothing personal. Your children, brother, but they have their kids. You have children. I, speaking to you as being a magi, but also a hypnotist, you notice those who get to know me, I address you as cherub. I'm stimulating your falling status.
Islam.
You're angels.
Islam.
So I call you until you prove wrong and act like a fool. Then I'm gonna call you the imp or me. So once he completed it, then he started to make its mate, the female. And darn if he found out, he did create a new disease. This is,
Syphilis, gonorrhea, and tuberculosis.
That's right.
and then here's another.
And lice.
There you go.
What was that?
Because those were in my personal cipher. I sent it out a couple years ago. Look it up on the Wikipedia. I'm looking for a particular little pretty crab I seen. It was blue and red. And I said, oh, let me see this. I think it was from the Life of Pi. Let me go to the thing. I'm going to see this. Go to this stuff. And all of a sudden I get lights coming. I'm like, oh, I'll look up some lights. And then I'm looking at some stuff. It said body lights. I was like, all right, well, let me look at this. And it actually says a primate's pestilence. But they don't know how it got into the human kingdom.
Yes, they do.
And I said, my God, I said, they just sat here in a minute with C.M. Bey, your colleague who wrote your Zodiac Constitution. He was a student of Noble Drew, registered your work in
Islam.
1947.
Library of Congress.
Library of Congress.
Islam.
I'm going to show y'all, this is also part of, you don't get the nationality, you're supposed to record. You're supposed to retrieve this to back up your nationality card. It's another reason why I say my argument. You got Iggers that claim to be Moors and they trying to put you back into slavery.
Islam.
An Igger Moor took this off the registry. So if any of you hear them talking crap about my father, you shut them down and you say, go after Nakeem Bey, why he's still breathing. Get him to put it back on the registry. I didn't mean to give you that little PSA, but we'll talk about that. So, you ain't supposed to be putting no battery in my back. Don't let me do my damn Paul Mooney. Anyway, so he created new diseases. He kept the women down in South America. This is where you get the Amazonian women, kind of looking like the Stacey Dashes.
They call them the Red Queens.
Yeah, the Amazon, right. So you get Stacey Dash type of looking Moors and the Vanessa Williams. And we kept the women down in the South America area, and then we took the men, and that's what made the Greek civilization, the island of Palan or whatever. And that's why you see their artifacts, they got a lot of men together, and they ain't had women. We kept them. Now, our ancestors, being the corrupt that they were, had a great abundance of these new women. We then took them to the different colonies around the world, and this is where you start to get
Your
the
nation
Moorish nation. All right. So now, know this again. Let me backtrack again. So once he created the new beings, Father Morluaki Nielsen, well, you